Now we need somebody will be going follow a vacant position. Here,
You would pick my wife out tomorrow night.
I have a guest list now. Can everybody sign in, please?
Everybody sign
It's better to call me because my wife just
Board member, oh, he's done.
Good evening. Our chair, Rich Hargrave, is unable to conduct tonight's meeting, and I, as vice chair, Tom Berg, will be orchestrating this evening with all of you together. And right now, we will do an introduction of members. To my left,
Jeff Alexander.
Ann Atkinson.
Gary Batista.
Dick Beamer.
Scott Belford.
and our secretary.
Lola Frank.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We're going to go to conduct of board meeting because it's on the agenda. The agenda is available at the front table for everyone, and it has a conduct for the meeting, so we'll just move along. So please read that if you have any questions. We're going to go into reports. First on item agenda 4A is Honolulu Fire Department. Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Michael Soleo. I'm a firefighter here at the Echo Beach Fire Station. I have some company statistics for you. We have, for the month of January, 0 structure fires, 2 brush fires, 13 rubbish fires, and no vehicle fires. We had 86 medical, 4 search and rescue, and 12 miscellaneous. Major incidents, we have none. And our fire safety tip is fire building and U.S. postal codes and city ordinances state that property owners shall place their house numbers in such a manner so that it is legible and readily visible from the street. This will assist the Honolulu Fire Department and other first responders in locating your house quickly in the event of an emergency. Any questions?
From the board? Questions from the board? We have none. From the audience? None from the audience. Thank you for your report. Next on the agenda, item 4B, Honolulu Police Department. Please come forward.
Good evening, board members, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Tsuchida out of the Kapolei Police Station. Looking over the statistics for the month of January, it's pretty much on par from December. There was a slight decrease in the amount of burglary cases that were reported, but everything else is pretty much the same. Overall arrests and calls for service were also pretty much the same from January. Our crime tip of the month has to do with starting a neighborhood security watch or citizens patrol. We encourage everybody in the community to start either a neighborhood security watch or a citizens patrol. Both have been proven in the past as an effective way to reduce crime in your areas. If you'd like to start Citizens Patrol or Neighborhood Security Watch, you can notify Officer Anton Pacheco at 692-4250.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report?
Yes.
Are there any questions from the board? We have a question from Board Member Belford.
Quick comment, Mr. Chair. I know you folks can be everywhere, but I sure have appreciated seeing a lot more of you up and down Kapolei Parkway with trying to stop some of the speeders as they speed. So I really appreciate that and all that you folks do.
Any other questions or comments from the board? To the audience, any questions? Hearing none, we'll move along. Thank you for your time and participation.
Thank you.
Further on reports, item 4C, Appleweed C.
Good evening, Gilbert Searles from the Appleweed C. Sergeant Edgar Namoka is not able to attend tonight's meeting, but I did bring the January stats, and it's available on the table, and I will, if there's any concerns or questions, I will get it to him.
Well, thank you for your report. Board members, any conversations going on tonight? Any questions, comments? From the audience? Thank you.
One more thing, just a reminder, Make a Difference Day is this Saturday, so if anyone who would like to come and volunteer, we're all meeting at the Waikawa High School, the old building, between 8 and 8:30.
Between 8 and 8:30. And when would it conclude? When would it conclude?
About 11.
Thank you. On the reports, item 4D, Board of Water Supply.
board members and all my neighbors. My name is Cal Sulioka, and for my mate for my report this evening, I'm happy to report there was no water main breaks for the month of January. For general water announcements, as you know, every month we report if there's any water main breaks in your community and provide the details of the break. Rather than just report the data, we thought it would be helpful to provide you with some background information about water main breaks. Water main breaks are an unfortunate but unavoidable factor in the water utility industry. No water utility is free of water main breaks, but the Honolulu Board of Water Supply works diligently to reduce the amount of breaks that happen every year. In fact, the Board of Water Supply has seen a continuous decrease in the amount of breaks on Oahu since the 1990s. And the Board of Water Supply remains committed to continuing this positive trend. We prepared a handout of information that provides you with information about why water main breaks happen, what BWS does to prevent breaks, and what our crews do in the event of a water main break. That handout I put on the community table right there, so if you want that kind of, if you need, want to take a look at that information, it's pretty interesting. For another announcement, second announcement, Board of Water Supply Water Conservation Calendar. The kickoff has started for the 2008 Water Conservation Week poster contest for all Oahu students in kindergarten through 6th grade. Deadline for poster entries is Thursday, March the 13th. Contest details can be found at our website at www.boardofwatersupply.com or by calling our communications office at 748-5041. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Board members. Hearing none. Audience, we have a comment. Please come forward to the microphone. State your name for the record.
Thank you, Ella. Kel, the recycled water, I'm going to stop over there on Kapolei Parkway. When is it going to come all the way out to the rest of Kapolei Parkway, like the regional park area and some of the other sprinklers that using regular water now?
The recycled water right now, we just completed the loop system that goes from Geiger Road, Geiger and Kapolei Parkway, and it goes Makai down to the new Ocean Point Golf Course, and then from there it cuts across to Fort Weaver Road, and it was tied into an existing line. So that's pretty much our water main for the recycled water service. So whatever is within that system, we can tie into. But I don't see any future plans. I haven't heard of any future plans of like extending that system right now.
Is not that far from the regional park area?
The regional park, the one.
On the Jose gave us on that.
Oh, talking about Bush?
Oh, right over here. Right in the beginning.
Oh, right over here.
Yeah.
Oh no, they're gonna be. We have a main right across the street, right, which is Hawaii Prince Golf Course, and we have a stub out that goes across Fort Weaver Road already. Was in about 7 years ago. So it's already there, and my understanding is when they start doing that mass grading and everything else, and they start doing the infrastructure for that park, they're gonna tie into the recycled water system.
Okay.
So it is already in the plans.
And what about the resurfacing that the company that went dig up on that road or whatever on Packer?
Yeah, what I found out today, back on the email, was that status quo, it seemed like I said before, was that there was I guess a little conflict between how the city wanted it paved and the Board of Water Supply wanted it paved and the contractor and everything else. But I think it has been resolved and they're moving forward, but it's out to bid right now, so they're still waiting to get some kind of a bid to complete that job, so we can get a nice road out there on Geiger and Kapolei Parkway. So I haven't heard what the starting date is yet, because they haven't got a contractor to start for the job yet. But as soon as I find out, I'll let you know, Brother Kirk.
Thank you. We do have another question from Board Member Bautista.
Are you guys still giving out the water leak detector bills?
Normally we give it out in the later part of the year when we do the leak detection, kind of, outreach where we try to encourage people to look for, leaks, which is, normally a lot of, we always find a lot of toilet leaks leaking, but, do you want some, Gary? Okay, I'll bring it to the next meeting. I'll write a note down here, bring it.
Thank you.
We'll bring it back to the audience. Any other comments? Thank you for your report. Moving on to item 4E, military. Do we have any report from the military on item 4E on the agenda? Board members, I'd like to seek your concurrence on something, and that is I'd like to make an item 4F grade 1 by moving item 10G so that we can have the Board of Education, Mr. Breen Harimoto, provide his report. Board members, any objections?
As long as he speaks for 2 minutes.
Hearing none,
He's my friend.
please come forward, Breen. Thank you so much. Board of Education.
Thank you very much. Breen Harimoto, Board of Education, Lima District Member. Thank you for moving me up on the agenda. I distributed my newsletter to you, and you know, there's so many issues to talk about. There's the budget, there's our infamous drug testing of teachers, there's dogs, the dog that sniffs for drugs, online learning, legislation, there's a lot of things, but tonight I just want to talk about one thing which is going to affect your community. It's, I'm not sure everyone knows about this, but you know, we have complex areas that schools are organized in. Currently, Honolulu District has 3 complex areas, and the Leeward District always had 2 complex areas. And of course, the Leeward District has the most students, by far the most number of students. We have arguably maybe perhaps the most challenges in the state, fastest growing area. So what the superintendent has decided to do is to reorganize so that we redistribute some of the resources. So what's going to happen effective July with the new school year is that the Leeward District now will gain a complex area. So we'll have an additional complex area. So Leeward will have 3 and Honolulu will have 2. And this is a real positive step because it will bring more resources to the Leeward side, and it will, I think, perhaps most impact will be it'll bring more attention to the problems that we are facing. So look forward to more information as we go along, and I will bring that to you. Just one last announcement is the next Board of Education meeting is next week, Thursday, February 21st, and that's going to be right here in your community at Keauniula Elementary School across the street. So look forward to that. If you have any issues, certainly welcome to attend the meeting. Thank you.
Clarification, did you say Eva Elementary School or Eva Beach Elementary School?
Keauniula.
Okay, thank you. What time?
The afternoon session starts at 3:30 with our reports. The formal testimony and the business meeting starts at 7.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Yes, the board member, Ms. Atkinson.
Thanks very much. A couple questions. You say that we're going to gain a complex. Aren't we also going to end up losing a lot of money and gaining a lot of problems with that?
No, well, let me explain that a little further. The complex areas are made up of complexes, right? So you have the high school and all the theaters. So right now we have all of these organized in groups, and we have 2 of these groups. And of course, each group is headed by a complex area superintendent with all the resources attached to that office. So by gaining a 3rd office, we're gaining more resources. So in other words, instead of, right now we have Pro City, Waipahu, and Nanakuli in one area. Then we have Campbell, Kapolei, and Waianae in a separate area. So there's 2 groups. We'll reorganize these so that we'll have 3 groups. And I'm not sure exactly if they're finalized, but I know the preliminary discussion was something like Pro City, Waipahu, Campbell, Kapolei, and Waianae, Nanakuli. So we're not gaining students, we're just redistributing the students in the schools. But we're gaining an administrative arm, which comes with the resources.
Board Member Bautista.
Does this include all levels of the school you mentioned, high school, but what about the lower?
Yeah, so the high school that feed it, so for example, with Campbell High School and all the schools that feed it is in one complex, and then it's attached to a complex area.
I see.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Please come forward. Thank you, Mr. Novella.
Yes, the question was, with this new superintendent that's gonna be doing this position, I mean, we'll have to pay that person, right, when the position opens up. So that's what I guess what, like somebody, she was kind of going at it, how much it's gonna cost. You know, we know when you redo the schools, that's not gonna cost nothing, but the person that's gonna be in charge, that's gonna cost
Okay, I
something.
see. Yeah, what we're doing is actually just shifting that office from Honolulu over to Leeward. So instead of having 3 of these offices in Honolulu and 2 in Leeward, we're gonna now have only 2 in Honolulu and 3 in Leeward.
So the person that was over there will be free that.
Not necessarily. I don't think Superintendent Hamamoto has decided how that's going to occur. But you can just imagine the resources that were over here is now going to be in Leeward.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to item 5, board business on the agenda. Under A, review and acceptance of the regular meeting minutes of January 10th, 2008. Board members. Board Member Alexander.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there going to be a second or is there a comment? Anyone else? We have Board Member Bautista.
Isn't there a discussion first?
You got a problem with one?
Yes.
Oh, well,
Board Member Bautista, please state your correction.
would you like this, Chair?
Under the guests, under the listing of the guests, we put down the name of Oscar and the students of Campbell High School video outreach. I request that the students' name also be included there on it. Okay, the students will have to sign their
No, they
name.
don't have to if they don't want to.
I am requesting that they
You
do.
don't have to. 1984 has been here a long time. Don't put your name.
I am requesting that they do, so we know.
James Campbell High School volunteers, you're more than welcome to sign in the sign-in sheet and have your names forever down in the minutes. Your options. Thank you. Anyone else?
You can put that on the level, you can put it on the.
So do we have a approval of the minutes? We have a motion by
Motion.
Alexander, second? Second by Board Member Atkinson. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries, unanimous. Under item 5B, Treasurer's Report, Board Member Belford.
Mr. Chair, there had been a little difficulty with getting the current report, so I would like to defer that report until next month without objection. And would want to ask our Campbell students if maybe you folks will find something out for us between now and next month. I'm curious to know about the copywriting of the video that you shoot, whether or not Campbell ends up loading the video or if the neighborhood board does.
I can answer that. It's neighborhood board copyright.
It will be okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're supposed to keep a copy for us.
Thank you.
In the file. If not, you're gonna be arrested. I know Campbell students, I'm a grad.
We have a Treasurer's Report. Any other communications from the board on the Treasurer's Report?
We'll get one next month.
I sense there's a comment from the audience on the Treasurer's Report. Would you please
No.
come forward?
Wasn't that, you talking about the board has copyrights to the media. Actually, Sable Media, like the previous person before us, he had the copyrights. We have to have him release it to us from Olelo. He had the copyrights to film here. But yeah, they can provide you guys that, but Sable Media is the controlling factor over our filming with Olelo. That's the contract that they have with Olelo.
It's called the producer, correct?
Right.
Thank you. So we have that clarification. Appreciate that. Under the item now of board business, 5C is board vacancy, at large, one seat. We have opening comments by Board Member Alexander, please.
There's a problem. It's not an at-large seat. We're not at large right yet. Next year we will be. We have to fill it from one, what is it, Division 1 or Division B?
There are two sub-districts, and I appreciate that, Board Member Alexander. Let's get clarification from our Neighborhood Assistant Secretary, Ms. Frank, on this. And it does say, everyone out there in the audience, that the at-large is written on the agenda. So technically, it is, once we get some confirmation here, it could be that the agenda is incorrect. This board has two options. We could revisit this at another time, or the board could, with all 6 members, it would have to be of unanimous 6 members to agree that the agenda could be manipulated and amended. So at this stage, we have, there's a resolution document here, board members, that we've discussed for some months on end, that when the vacancy came about, the vacancies we had voted on, I believe, to take a position that it would be at large, meaning 96706. One resides within that zip code. It's Pride Forever. You're included. If you are in the sub-districting of 1 and 2, which was pretty much division line Geiger Road, if you were Malka or Mackay of that, and but with that, the board had taken a position to do away with that sub-districting. So we are back again at large. So we have a clarification from the Secretary and the Commission, and we are going to continue.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, please, Board Member Alexander.
Until the next election. We were elected under, I hate the sub-districting, I fought it back when they subdivided, but by law, if you want, we call the general council in town. We cannot come back off our, all right, we might not have a problem though.
What I'd like to do is make...
Let's make a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make the clarification. Let me make this clarification. There are two routes to take here. One is vacancy, the other is versus an election of the entire board. The entire board election process will be just that, at large. However, in the vacancy of fulfilling a vacancy, the board was given that opportunity through a process, through a hearing process, through a deciding a commission vote of which has been approved, and that's where we are today. So if we were looking at replacing a vacancy, this is not an election process.
Yes, I understand that. So we fall under the old rules.
Those rules were amended, and we have a resolution that justifies and...
All right, we might not have a problem.
I understand what he's saying. I understand what he's saying. What he's saying is that if someone from the audience wanted to be at large and they were not in the the vacancy is actually in sub-district, sub-district 1, which is of 5 members. 5 members make up sub-district 1. Board member Gary Smith has resigned from the board, and to what Board member Alexander is saying is that if the agenda did not say at large, it would be replacing Board member Smith's sub-district 1. So if there are those in the audience that want to be from the other district, sub-district 2, we've gotten the clarification that that will not be a part of it. It can be from anyone in 96706. And that's right now the ruling we have. So, Board member Bautista.
I'd like to make a motion that we amend the words from at large on the agenda to sub-district 1.
I'll second that.
We have a motion that has been seconded, and we can now discuss this. Any comments? Board member Belford.
My comment, Mr. Chair, would be that I don't think that's necessarily our choice, and we should probably defer this until next month so that we can be certain what the ruling has been of the commission. I think Board member Alexander has a really good point, which is this is a vacancy from a prior election. Yeah, we have gone through a real thorough process, and the commission has approved the process before we go at large. And so, my comment on this would be that maybe we amend it to defer it until next month. I don't think we know what we're doing if we want to try to overrule the.
Okay, wait. We might be able to bypass this. I have a nomination from District 1. If he gets in, I'll keep my mouth shut.
We have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. At this time, members, would you like to go with a vote?
Mr. Chair.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Board take care of business.
Which motion?
This motion on the floor right
I think
now
it's the business of the
is not to
community,
defer,
Mr. Chair.
is to delete, the motion on the floor is to delete the language of at-large and replace with sub-district 1. And that motion has been seconded. We are now, after discussion, I'm calling for the vote. All those in favor of the motion, do we have a unanimous consent?
Aye.
Are there any objections to the motion?
No.
Okay, shall we change the word?
The motion fails.
Well, all right, we don't have enough
Just going.
anyway. Let's see if my nomination gets through, we bypass all the problems.
Okay, we are now under item 5C, whereby we can have a motion on the table by Board Member Alexander.
I'll nominate Kirk Favela.
A nomination. We have a nomination that's been seconded by Board Member Bautista, a nomination by Board Member Alexander for Mr. Kurt Favela. Any other nominations, board members? Are there any nominations requests from the audience?
Are you guys gonna go at large or just sub-district 1? What are you guys
Well,
doing?
see, we already said no to go in sub-district, but my motion bypasses that because he is actually in sub-district 1. If we put him on, I'll keep my mouth shut, I won't go to corporation council, because that law should go into effect next election.
But it
If we
shouldn't
put
be
him
done
in-
because you want somebody on board and then you keep your mouth shut, you know what I mean?
No, but
You
he
should
comes
go
out
by
of
procedures.
sub-district 1. He comes out of sub-district 1.
Mr. Chair, you guys shouldn't decide at your convenience.
Right now, I'm going to recognize audience member. Would you state your name for the record, sir?
Let me explain.
Thank you.
I mean, he has a point, but you guys shouldn't, at your own convenience, amend it when we have something on the books, okay? And it calls for next month, when we had a clarification, and it'll take effect next month, or next year.
Next year.
Next year. So at your convenience, you should, at will, you shouldn't take it upon yourselves to amend.
No, we are amending the agenda, is what we're doing, and we can, that's all.
To at large.
No, it says at large on here, it shouldn't.
Sub-district.
Any other candidates?
Yeah, but
I'm gonna bring it back.
It's on
Now,
the
well,
agenda.
I'm gonna clarify. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else in the audience like to make a comment? Because I believe there's another motion to be made, and there's Board Member Belford.
Oh, excuse me, you can't, we've already got a nomination for the board, so you can't be jumping over that, you gotta address that.
Thank you. We have a second as well.
Yeah.
So, right now,
Somebody else nominated.
right now at this time, we have no other suggestions for someone to take up an at-large seat. Again, we have a resolution that this board has taken action to separate the two of at-large versus the next election. So at the next election, there will be no sub-districting. It will be everyone from 96706. And at this time today, the agenda is correct. We are following procedures. There is no looking the other way, Board Member Alexander. So with that, we're going to take a vote. All those in favor? No, we're going to do a roll call. Secretary Frank, please.
Jeff Alexander,
Aye.
Ann Atkinson,
Aye.
Gary Bautista,
Aye.
Dick Beamer,
Aye.
Scott Belford,
aye.
Vice Chair Burrow.
Aye.
We bypassed the trouble.
Motion passes. Nomination
I almost
is
did nominate
accepted.
you, Kirk, because you keep talking.
Mr. Kurt Favela, would you come forward and be sworn in, please?
Wait, Mr. Chair, I think you have another number.
We're going to recess at this time for the swearing in. Thank you. 2 minutes.
So you missed being up here, did you?
do. It's on the floor. This is
Yes, sir, thank you.
We're calling this meeting back to order. What time again?
7:34. And then leave whatever. Then you want to come back?
I'll be happy to come back.
Okay, good.
Are there any questions on the announcement?
Well, let's.
Maybe, hold on. Go away.
You might want one of these, Glenn.
Let me have one.
Actually, I don't want to see any more development down in Ever Villages. Okay, so.
But do you want to see that thing just crumble and into dust? It's there.
They're
That
fixing
big
it, they're fixing it.
Audience, we're still under announcements, and board members, if you have a moment to peruse through this material, I'd like to comment while you're doing that. This grant, the city and county of Honolulu, the mayor's administration, from my understanding, were very, very diligent on this as well with the State Stormwater Preservation Division. And it was initiated by President Bush, if I'm correct.
Yes, it was White House, and Barbara Bush is the honorary chair of the program.
And the total number of municipalities across America that have been recognized so far?
This is not for the former commission. There's very few. This is one of 42 grants that were awarded for the first round in 2007. There's different levels of grant programs. This is kind of an entry-level program that it can lead you up to becoming a Preserve America community over time.
One of the sore spots for the historical villages is the Ewa Manager's Mansion, a 3.7 acre cemetery, the bachelor's quarters, an Ewa Mill site, and this grant will provide some cohesion, some direction, some engaging the community back, taking ownership of these properties. They're pretty much looking at them in a common element type of a format. So this grant money is an honor, from my understanding. I've known that this has been coming about for some time. So with that, any other comments? Board Member Atkinson, please.
Yeah, a couple questions. So this entry-level grant you're talking about, it's basically a capacity building, strengthening type of grant. It's not going to go into the construction or...
No, it's not a bricks and mortar grant. Yeah.
So it's a build a community...
It's a capacity, yeah. It's also a development, it's more of a development grant, capacity, community grant. It's for the community to help develop plans so they can go forward trying to work finding bricks and mortar type funding.
Okay, and I'm sorry, are you with the city or?
No, I'm with the State Historic Preservation Division.
Okay, okay. And what's the size? What's the size of the grant? It says entry level. What's entry level?
This grant is for to develop a revitalization plan to work with the community. It's something that we worked, our office and the city and the county work with. As well as the National Park Service. I don't know. I don't recall the exact figure of the grant off the top of my head.
And so this would be administered by the state?
It's jointly administered.
By the state and by? And
by the city and county. And from what I understand, it's jointly administered.
Okay.
Yes.
Board Member Alexander.
I read it here. Revitalization plans and promote community and heritage tourism. And people never don't want us down there, let alone tourists. Well, now, if you repave and widen Renton Road, I'll be for you. Anything else, I'll fight it.
That's an issue you can bring up next month at the meeting next month.
Are you coming here?
This meeting.
No, at the public hearing next month.
I'm not coming to you.
Board Member Atkinson.
Yeah, I am going to come to your meeting, but I also want to say for the record that I hope you'll also include in this planning process the Oahu Railway Association.
Yeah, we've discussed with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Audience?
Lenzer.
Audience member Old Milton.
Board members, you may recall in the early 90s when the sugar mill went out, right? The city tried to create a master plan for the mill site. I think the preservation, it really has gone to sleep, in other words. They have historical sites. Is this part of the revitalization of that Evermaster mill site plan, or is this something else?
This, could be the final sense of something else, but it also could, tie into other existing plans as well. I mean, it depends on what the community is interested in. A lot of this is guided by the community and by what your interests are.
Is this because the preservation committee or the state has gone asleep and not really picked up where they left off in the early 90s, or is this something else?
This being used for this grant program?
Yeah.
Now, this is a separate program from what
is it? I don't know, maybe it's a duplication of something, I don't know.
I can clarify.
But you know about that, and Gary knows about the preservation of the mill area. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's a duplication of effort or monies or whatever it is. Should be looked into it.
Any other comments? Under announcements, are there any other announcements? We've concluded on the agenda. Announcements. Thank you. We have under item 7, public generated issues, community concerns. Time limit of 3 minutes per speaker. Are there any community concerns from the board members? Board members, community concerns. No comments from the board? Audience, please come forward. Audience, community concerns. I am going to take the liberty to say one.
Excuse me, Tom?
Yes.
Is this where we can discuss the...
You're on the agenda. If I read your mind, the bus relocation is on the agenda, correct?
Okay.
Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. Not making a plug here for nobody, just happened to read in the Honolulu Advertiser Sunday, transit system likely won't improve traffic. You're going to get some stats here, statistics. If anybody would like, please get a hold of it. Sunday's Honolulu Advertiser to give you a look into the carrying capacity of our freeway system here on the island of Oahu. And it's not a pretty picture, so please stick around. We hope to get involved with this in the committee report tonight in AMPO. We're going to get into some transportation, and that is my community concern, is I hope you will all stick around for that towards the end of this meeting. So, thank you. We still have a community concern. Please come forward. And your name is?
So that's a person. Well, basically, it's not, is this on?
Very small.
Okay, basically, it's not a community concern, but it is a concern to me. Okay, I guess there was an article in the newspaper about the task force. Have you read that? The $1.7 million that the state spent to hire these people, to get these people, and we have senators and council people on that board. Now, you know what? I think that's a waste of money. Because those $1.7 million could have gone for something that is the issue today. Whatever they got on that paper is the issue that's been going on for many of years. And to me, the state and our taxpayers' money shouldn't have paid for something like that. You know? So is there any way that we can do something, if they can give that money to our community, or what can we do for our community to get something like that? Because that's a throwaway money.
That's a question that I, in the position tonight, cannot answer, but we do have an answer from our mayor's office possibilities. We also have our councilman in the room. Either one, I'm sure, could provide comment. Would either one like to provide a response to the community concern? Either the mayor's representative or Councilman Apo, would either one of you like to entertain a response? Would you like clarification on the question?
What task force is unfortunately a number of them.
There was a figure stated of $1.7 million that had brought forward a panel of experts for a task force.
Something with the state sustainability.
Is this a state sustainability?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to say, state issue, I don't know what that was done in the state legislature, so I'm going to leave that to your state representatives to respond to.
Thank you, Councilman. Are you satisfied?
Yeah, and you know, before they even create thing, I'm sorry, but before they even try to throw away our tax money, I mean, they should let the people know what they're trying to do, or you know, just let the people know. I mean, I hate to see surprises like this. It's like we're getting stabbed in the back already. We have an issue problem. We have major issue problem, and sometimes I feel in my heart that the planning and permitting department should be charged for changing people's lifestyle, having people go through this agony of traffic, and it's just everything. And then they're not solving that problem by making something like this behind people's back. I hope you know what I mean.
Your comments upon the sustainability plan 2050.
Well, so, anything. I mean, to me,
Yeah,
that should have been.
if we can, please, Board Member Atkinson.
I'm glad that you brought this up, Celeste, because I'm not going to address this specific issue, but this was passed through the legislature. And the problem is that a lot of people don't pay attention until it slaps them in the face, the way it has you now. And so we're in the middle of session now, and so I would urge people to kind of pay attention to what's going on in the legislature so that you know when something like this comes up. Because it's not really passed, quote, unquote, behind your back. It's just that you have your eyes closed as to what's going on in the legislature.
Okay, you tell me something.
Would
They have a
you
lot of
please come to the
meetings
microphone?
during the daytime when people work. How can
Yeah.
people go to the meetings?
Are you finished?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your,
answer that.
thank you for your comments. Anyone else from the audience?
Wait, Tom, wait a minute.
Board Member Alexander.
Now, these studies have been ongoing. When I started attending board meetings in 1990, they had a 2010 feasibility study. Long about 1995, 96, they realized their figures were off. Then they made a 2020 feasibility study. Then a few years ago, they realized, oh no, it's so big, we can't follow these plans. So then they stuck it to 2050. They're going to do it all the time, and they will never, ever get it right. I hate the tax waste too. Thank you.
Board Member Bautista. Did you have a comment?
I'd like to clarify, Ms. Celeste, when do we have time to look at the, check the mail or check whatever? It's always available if you have email or you can go to the library. It's always available that you can go and look at an issue and follow it if you want to.
Thank you. We have a community concern from community member Oamilda.
I just want to continue a discussion about this 2050 sustainability. I think the legislators have been, I don't know, they haven't come to Ewa Beach. They're talking about having 10,000 people attend all these different forums that they had put out, but I don't think they ever came to Ewa Beach. How can they say, well, it's a good, they got recommendations from these various communities, but I haven't seen them, they haven't had input from us. How can they say, yeah, it's a good plan? There's a lot of things missing from this plan. And I think if they do come down here, I think we'll give them a piece of our mind. And to me, I think they're spending money, 1.7 million, which the governor vetoed. The governor vetoed that $1.7 million because she thought it was, not appropriate for what they want to put out.
Thank you for your comments. Community concerns. Any others? Thank you. Moving on. Agenda, unfinished business. Under item 8A, it states restriping of Renton Road. Board Member Berg. At this time, I'm going to pass the gavel to an officer, and that would be Treasurer Belford. You're going to take the gavel. Would you please recognize me?
The board now recognizes Board Member Tom Berg for a presentation on the restriping of Renton Road. Time allotted 10 minutes. Time begins now.
Audience members, board members, on the bulletin board, I am making a motion. It states to notify State Historical Preservation Division, Department of Transportation, and the Department of Transportation Services to implement the Renton Road left turn lane reconfiguration. Do I have a second?
Didn't we do this last month or?
We have a second.
I second.
We have a second. We are now in discussion. Question, Board Member Alexander.
Last month?
Clarification. Back in May of '07, this was coupled with another item on Renton Road, which was at Oaha Street, intersection with Renton Road, at which this board had passed a motion to provide a traffic signal at that intersection. The subsequent matter of Renton Road was the restriping. Due to the time constraints at the time on the agenda, it was deferred as unfinished business. So in May of '07, we are now in February of '08. We're trying to bring conclusion to this. Let me just apprise the audience of why this has come up again tonight. On February 4th, there was a Department of Transportation informational meeting for the community, well advertised, held at Eba Elementary School. I believe it was at 6:30 p.m. And at the Eba Elementary School, there was a spokesperson for the DOT, Scotty Shikawa, present with other engineers, and there was dialogue and engagement with the audience, the community. If people will recall, back in May of '07, there was an initiative by Representative Capinilla to do what's called the left turn lane reconfiguration. And it was in conversation with then Director Haraga of the DOT that he would, at the widening, see, the widening is going to get to Renton Road 13 months from now. March of '09, the DOT expects to be at the Renton Road intersection. That was what was stated. So what we're looking at is the conversations with Representative Capinilla's office and the DOT was that in the widening contract, in the Fort Weaver widening project, is that when the DOT got to the Renton Road intersection, they would implement this change. They would implement that which was discussed. There was a detailed report made on this reconfiguration. However, it was left with the DOT response saying, we'll get back to you, we'll try to work it in the contract. On February 4th at the DOT's informational meeting, the engineer stated, I don't know what you're talking about. So at this stage, I feel it's important, and thank you for getting it on the agenda, where we can now provide direction to the Department of Transportation if at all we are to address the Renton Road traffic situation, predominantly in the morning rush hour times. Board Member Alexander.
Okay, I remember voting for one of your motions to reconfigure Renton, take out part of the median.
The decision making on that was it went unabated. We had concluded with a motion to favor a traffic signal at Oaha Street and Renton Road. We did not bring to a vote, from my understanding, this subject matter. It was discussed without resolve.
Okay. You want the two lanes coming out of Eba on Renton Road, turning left on the Fort Weaver?
You know, you got a little bit ahead of me. If everyone would please go to a report, you'll see on this page of Representative Rita Capinilla's report, on the back page, a Google map. You'll see on the other side of that, the configuration with the lines, photographs, justification, explanation in detail on the Renton Road left turn lane reconfiguration. It's a matter of restriping some 70 feet at the intersection where we would have two lanes similar to what is at Geiger at intersection of Fort Weaver and Kalawaka intersection at Fort Weaver, whereby they have two lanes, solid lanes to get onto Fort Weaver. Renton Road, Board Member Bautista.
This is...
Well, we're going to take a break for taping. One moment, please. Your command.
Oh, I got him.
With the replacing the Zoom presentation on the restriping of Renton Road,
Board Member Bautista.
There was two issues at the time in May that we discussed. One was restriping and one was cutting the median, like we said. Now, which one did we vote on?
A traffic signal at the intersection of Oahu Street and Renton Road. The traffic signal was, the motion was approved and a communication sent to the mayor's office, and the mayor's office had responded that the traffic signal at that intersection was not warranted.
I agree. However, we also discussed the cutting of the median to make 2 lanes to turn left. And or restriping to make 2 lanes turn left in 240 Road, like you said. Now, I gotta go back and find out what did we decide on.
I'd like to clarify for you, there was no decision because in the subject matter of restriping Renton Road, which was its own item on the agenda, we had discussed it and decided not to take a vote or a position, okay? There was no position taken on the subject of restriping. If you look on the insert here, there's a schematic that explains the 3-lane configuration in detail with photographs that can show you exactly what the reconfiguration being proposed is. So the removal of a grass medial strip to the first palm tree, roughly 75 feet, is the only visual change that you will see to the entire medial strip. It's 75 feet removal of the grass, and there's photographs in here that show and depict that. With removal of 75 feet of grass, you would be able to get a second turn lane for Renton Road. And I just want to say this, is that that's my way out of Dodge in the morning, and between 6:30 and 7:45, you got Eva Elementary School.
I vote no.
Lanakila
I want 4 lanes on my road.
Lanakila, and Friendship Bible. So you have 3 schools within a stone's throw all together on Renton Road. It takes 20 minutes now, 20 minutes
All right,
to
I
get from
thought we
Evan Eagle
addressed
Park
it, I called for the
to Fort Beaver
question.
Road.
I
Thank
thought
you.
we addressed it, I called for the question. I'm sorry. Well, pass it back.
At this time, I'd like to ask if the any board members have any other discussion. We haven't gone to the audience.
No, I don't have one. Question has been called for.
Yeah, we had discussed it before. It's nothing, no great big thing.
We did have a
Doesn't
second.
get it in because they're gonna do the widening down Fort River Road.
I second.
He called for a question.
It doesn't need a second.
We will do a roll call.
Jeff Alexander.
Aye.
Ann Atkinson.
Aye.
Gary Bautista.
Aye.
Dick Beamer.
Aye.
Scott Belford.
Aye.
Vice Chair Berg.
Yes.
And Mr. Bell.
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you. And what will take place now is the 3 entities there will be provided with a letter apprising the Department of Transportation to, this will provide them this direction so that they can incorporate that. 13 months from now, we may have resolved. Thank you. We're under item on the agenda 9, under new business presentations at 10 minutes, under 9A, is relocation of bus shelter, Kalawaka and Fort Weaver Road. We would like to, I think that at this time, I would like to go straight to an audience member on this if we can. Would you please come forward? We have the general manager from Yavapai Gentry Community Association. Would you please apprise this community and the board alike as to what this on the agenda is all about? And identify yourself.
My name is Suzanne Alaba. I'm the general manager of Yavapai Gentry Community Association. And first I'd like to ask, do the members of the board understand what the movement of this bus stop means to traffic? Are you aware of what?
I do. Can we pass those out and read them now, please?
Actually, what this is some research. I wish they were handouts. This is research that was done. I'd like to submit to the board for your review.
I'm going to read the list.
I'd like to go back to the night of the meeting on February 4th, Monday, February 4th, the meeting that Mr. Berg was referring to. At that meeting, Scott Ishikawa presented the movement of the bus stop to the people who were there for discussion. He also had a senior engineer who was extremely condescending and basically telling all of the people there, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know how to engineer roads and highways. And the people who had shown up are people that are actually driving this on a daily basis. How many people, I'd like to know how many people on the board actually drive to town every day.
Yeah, but she don't count. She lives by the hospital. She don't count.
Okay. The case in point here is near side versus far side bus stops. If you go up to the old Fort Weaver Road intersection, that bus stop was moved from the near side to the far side. They want to move the Colawaka Fort Weaver Road bus stop from the near side to the far side.
Temporary.
No, it is permanent. This is what they clarified, did they not,
No.
Mr. Berg? It is permanent.
The identification of the location of the bus stop currently at the intersection of Kalawaka and Fort Weaver Road is that the proposal of the DOT in their configuration that they provided at the meeting on February 4th was the bus stop would now be located, am I correct? Right here? This would be where the bus stop...
Actually, it's going to be further up. It has to be so many hundred feet from the corner.
Yeah, but we were told, Scott Ishikawa was here, it's temporary so they can widen the road. It'll go back to where it is.
It'll never go back. This is what the request was made for the easement, for landscape area in the easement in which to put the shelter. The old shelter will be demolished. It will never be done again. The discussion, I mean, I was as appalled by this as you probably will be. The near side versus far side. The senior engineer told everybody there that it is standard practice now for the city to move all of their bus stops to the far side versus the near side of every
Yes,
light.
they changed that about 5 years ago because it's better. Because the bus was stopping in front of the light, backing up everybody, the light had changed. Best to get the bus through the light and have them stop. And the bus strike was great, we could drive around.
This particular bus stop and this particular intersection, their main concern is that they want to create a dedicated right turn lane for those people going north on Fort Weaver Road to turn east on Colawaka. No one does it. I mean, there are a dozen cars a day that may do this. They're concerned about the bus crossing the people that may be in the dedicated right turn lane. Furthermore, I'm sorry?
There is a dedicated right turn.
Well, they need a larger bus stop. Now, the easement where the bus stop currently exists, from the edge of the existing Fort Weaver Road to the property line up the hill is 50 feet. The easement on the far side of the intersection is about 10 feet.
Okay, but that's where the ground levels out. There's no more hill.
Exactly. Where there is a hill, that bus stop, the people that live near that bus stop, they are buffered from the noise of the bus stop by way of that hill. There's a CMU wall back there. I wish I had a nickel for every gallon of paint we put on that wall and all the graffiti cleanup that we're doing there. I wish I could have brought with me the YouTube video of the gang that gathered out there to call out the kids from Campbell High School. I wish there were ways of showing what a disaster that's going to be, especially with the pedestrians. Right now, the pedestrians coming from the west side of Fort Weaver Road cross at Colawaka, cross Fort Weaver Road, and they're at the bus stop. They're going to move this bus stop to the far side. They're going to start cutting across. You've got 3 lanes, major lanes of traffic going north. You've got 2 major lanes coming out of Colawaka. You've got another 2 major lanes coming from Colawaka West. And now you're going to have people crossing in that mess and people cutting across to the bus stop. Someone's going to get killed.
Oh, no. on the widening of Fort Weaver Road, they are gonna put a chain link fence or something down the
No,
middle.
they're not. The chain link fence is stopping before Renton Road.
It is.
Yes.
At this time, thank you for your questions. Board Member Favela.
I make a motion that the neighborhood board, I make a motion that we ask leave the bus stop where it is right now and write a letter on behalf of the people over there. To just leave it where it is, not to move it.
Well,
But they have to move.
they gotta move it when they're doing the widening.
May I say something here?
Okay, wait, let me clarify. If they're gonna close it, not demolish it. So I make a motion that they leave it there, don't demolish it, put a sign that it's closed temporarily so they can relocate it for the widening of the road and then reopen it after the widening. Thank you.
I would like to make another comment on this one. I understand there's a motion on the floor. I just want to say something. The easement is still owned by Gentry Homes. It's not owned by the Association of Homeowners. The easement where it is right now, the bus stop where it is right now, the association will dedicate to the city as much real estate as is needed to create a super bus stop there. We will donate to building whatever wall will further that CMU wall that exists there right now. Gentry will sign the agreement with the city to create this really super bus stop on the near side of that intersection to prevent what is looking like will be happening. The last discussion that we had, the city is looking for the agreement on the far side. It's not temporary, it's permanent. The agreement on the far side, they said if Gentry will not sign the agreement, they're going to put the bus stop there and never build a shelter and demolish the city. And it's permanent.
Where the shelter is now is where a lane is going.
There is enough real estate there to create, where that widening of the lane, that particular area, you go and look at that, there's enough real estate there to extend the bus stop, push it further back, extend the bus stop and make it as big as you need it.
I'm gonna, Board Member Atkinson, please.
I have a question. Could we get, this is confusing to me because we don't have visuals, but is it possible to get the DOT to come in here and explain all of this and go on record saying they are going to make it permanent or they are going to make it temporary? No, thanks for me.
Tom, do you understand it to be
Yeah,
permanent?
what I'd like to do is just enter into a comment. That's a good point. The permanency of this has been proposed in a contract whereby when the contractor leaves of the widening project, the bus stop will remain of where they're going to move it. So the vacant bus stop at the meeting of February 4th, it was of a consensus in response to the engineers, in response to the Department of Transportation that came out to the community. It was of a consensus. May I ask you, did the Evelyn by Gentry Community Association itself of a board take a position on the subject matter?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Chairman Hargrave is one of the homeowners that is affected by this. There is a petition that I thought would be here tonight by Mr. Burgess, by Mr. Gregory Burgess. And we have a petition from the homeowners who are in the immediate area. But we're trying to get a petition of the people who are traveling this road to imagine what this chaos is going to be when it all happens. And as I was speaking with Mr. Ishikawa, the request was not to stop the movement of all bus stops. We know where they're moving all the other bus stops, and we're in the process of assisting the city to get that done. It is that one bus stop, it's just that one at Kolowaka, and that's the request of the community that they're asking that it not be used.
And not going into detail, there was approximately 4 to 5 items that were described which would be a negative effect if the bus stop would be removed. And we don't have to go into detail for the motion's purpose, but again, board members, at a public forum of a well-advertised meeting, it is of urgency, in my opinion, to cooperate with the petition, the consensus of the Evelyn by Gentry Board of Directors, and at the February 4th public meeting. And from my opinion, this has been well versed at this stage, whereby a message needs to be sent to the Department of Transportation in a very timely manner in response to that February 4th meeting. I would favor not deferring this subject matter. I would rather have the board take it up, make a decision, get a letter to the Department of Transportation as soon as possible.
Can you please restate your motion?
Yeah.
The motion should be, go ahead.
The motion is to, if we have to close the bus stop temporarily, to do that, not to break it down, and we support the not moving that bus stop. Leave it as exactly.
I'll second it, just so we can discuss it.
Let me discuss that.
We do have a motion and it has been seconded. Board Member Bautista.
I agree with that, but they said that they have, they said don't move they will have to move it further
Yeah,
in.
they're going for the widening, they move temporarily. But
Further in.
what she's saying right now, they're going to bust it down,
Yeah.
and they're not going to put it back.
No, it's not. I mean, I agree. They can move it in,
So that's
but
what-
don't bust it.
That's why we're going to write the letter so that we can, state that.
Any other discussion, board members? Audience, please, come forward.
Where's page 22? Oh.
Okay, I think that pretty much is clear about what had happened at that time. At that time, when we were down in Eva, there was a complaint from the residents along that roadside. They didn't want any bus or the road close to their home because of noise. So that's the purpose of moving the bus stop further down. And that is when we decided to build a chain link fence, because the residents there didn't want the road or the bus stop near their home, because when they extend the road, it's gonna go more towards the wall. So that's the reason why they moved it.
Actually, the existing bus stop where it is right now, there is a high enough hill where the noise abatement is just by the height of the hill.
Well, they did it because of what the residents wanted. That's the reason why. So you may want to take it up with the DOT, but I
am
remember
taking that up
that.
with the DOT. But I'm asking
The general manager, what is the petition number at this time? Do you have an estimate of 100, 200, 300? Are you aware of what the numbers might be?
Gregory Burgess is handling that. He was at the February 4th meeting as well, and he was not able to be here at the meeting tonight. Susan York did the research and what I submitted to the board, and she took ill. She's not able to be here tonight. We had 4 other homeowners who wanted to speak on this about the potential graffiti and the potential for graffiti, the potential for burglary, because there's no longer a hill to buffer the, so they're not able to be here tonight.
The reason I bring up the petition is that would it not be advantageous if within a week or so, if you would be able to, we could attach the petition with the letter from the board?
I believe Chairman Hargrave has it. I don't know why he's not here tonight.
Well, what I'd like to do is make a friendly amendment to the motion if I can at this time, and that would be to attach to the motion that the petition from the Eva by Gentry Community Association be attached, as well as reference to that fact that the Eva by Gentry Community Association Board of Directors, was the vote unanimous?
With the board?
Yeah.
It never went to the board. This is not a board action.
No, I'm saying the Eva by Gentry Community Association.
These are the individuals.
The Eva by Gentry Community Association Board of Directors, they took action, correct?
No, it has not been to the board meeting, because the city and the state have never acknowledged the board. They want to hear from the people.
I was saying it would be advantageous to the letter to be written to the DOT if we had that action to supplement the
Certainly
petition.
ask them. I'll gladly
If you could, you know what, if it's possible, we can always attach that at a later time as well, but I think that would be helpful, all the consensus we can get on that. So we have a comment from audience member Olga.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I think the meeting that was held about a year ago at Eva Elementary, I think all the issues that were brought up, that were discussed, should be revisited again. And I know there were subsequent meetings held, but I think the issues are still there. And also, the bus stop. I think we discussed it at our a year ago meeting at Eva Elementary, and I think we should invite the DOT to come, as well as a contractor, to come and revisit those issues that were discussed.
Point well taken, and I believe that I'd like to comment further on that, because there were other issues. The The crosswalk in front of Child and Family Service, you're absolutely right. The crosswalk in front of Child and Family Service, that crosswalk runs into a guardrail. When Senator Sparrow brought that up at the meeting with the Department of Transportation, the response of the engineer was that it's going to continue to run into the guardrail. This community was told for approximately 2 to 3 years in the planning stages of the widening project that that would be mitigated, that Child and Family Service crosswalk would not on the Diamond Head side run into the guardrail. It's unsafe. So people are going to have to straddle Fort Weaver Road, albeit it's not 45, it'll be at 35 miles an hour. Also, the other issue that became muddy was, again, regarding the Fort Weaver Road, Renton Road intersection. And one of the other things is, though they did in their detailed presentation, the ingress and egress of the buses was an issue, and that seems to be resolved except for the location of the one bus stop at Colowalk.
Yeah. And I think the setback, I think it should intrude into the setback close to the residential area. In other words, they should use as much as a medial strip as possible instead of encroaching into the easement between the wall and the street.
Well, we did suggest that.
They are, they're going to make a 2-foot.
So there's issues that has to be revisited.
The suggestion from the audience has been that we have a motion, we have that going on, but there's a suggestion from the audience that they being the DOT, and not only just at Eva Elementary School on the February 4th meeting, but come to this board at a later time. So what is going to happen in our minutes is going to reflect that a suggestion was made to have the Department of Transportation come to this meeting, be placed on the agenda, and we go into more detail on the subject matter. So that will be in the minutes, and we will hopefully have Chair Hargrave place such on the agenda. He will be notified. Now, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. We've put a friendly amendment on that the attachments of the petition, when available, will be provided. And it has been second that friendly amendment. Second to the friendly amendment by Board Member Belford. Is there going to be a call for the question? We have a call for the question. Let's do. I don't think we need a roll call vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We are now under item 10, reports by elected officials, under 10A, Mayor's Representative. For the record, please state your name.
Good evening, I'm Joyce O'Donnell from the Mayor's Office. I'd like to follow up with some of the issues that were raised by the board last month. The first item I have to report on, there was a concern regarding the trees that on the berm behind property at Westlock Fairways, as to why the city cut down those trees. It's been reported to me by the Department of Parks and Recreation that that property is owned by the city. There was an ongoing dispute back and forth between the city and the association as to who owned that land. And it was resolved, and the determination was made that the city owned the land. And as a result of numerous phone calls, emails from the property owner or management company and property owners in that area, the Department of Parks and Recreation removed those trees because of the complaints that the droppings from those trees were falling onto private property along that burned area. And this is a report I've gotten from the Department of Parks and Recreation. I understand that you've had a lengthy discussion with them as well. And at this point, we do have documentation from an Angel DaCosta, the property manager, who requested that the city remove those trees.
We'll conclude your report in totality before we entertain questions. If you
Sure.
can continue, please.
Thank you. The second item I have is there was a request for further trimming of trees on Renton Road. DPR reports that they will be there the weekend, this upcoming weekend, the 16th and 17th, to go back and address the concern about blocking of street lights. The other item I have is there was a request for a status report on the EVA I don't have any new news to provide to you other than that DPP continues to work on that plan. Their proposal is, once that public review draft is completed, they will they will distribute the revised plan to the neighborhood board for comment.
That concludes your report?
Yes,
Thank you. Any questions, board members? Board member Alexander.
I mentioned how the bushes are going into the roadway when you come around the corner. They gotta be cut back 10 feet. It happens every 2 or 3 years.
Pardon me, I did miss that one, but DPR tells me that they had, not DPR, yeah, Parks, Urban Forestry told me that that was cut back.
I was there the other day.
It was not.
They cut other trees.
Yeah, on I told
But along the, Papipi, the
They're down there right
entryway.
now. And as we drive around, we're grabbing a bunch of bushes.
Okay, well, that needs to be submitted. I did get a report that that was cut back in the month of January.
Oh, no, I was just there the other day. And Kirk comes out there with me. Right when you drive through the, yeah.
So from the entryway all the way back, so on the Mackay side,
No, Malcolm side. Go over that little bridge,
on the
you
Malcolm
turn
side.
right, yeah.
I wanna develop.
Board member Favela.
Came like a couple times.
On the Mackay side.
Sorry, not where the development was when they cut the trees for doing the survey. We're talking about more up, when you're going before the bridge, the trees are hanging over, that's what you're talking about. When you come over there, it's like one lane, a tunnel lane. If you go, people go over the speed limit, you can go head on with another car, it's hanging over.
Okay, and the location is before the bridge and on the Malka side.
After the bridge.
After the bridge.
After the bridge, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from board members? Member Atkinson.
Yeah, just back on tree cutting question. Actually, I have two tree cutting questions. Angel DaCosta at their board of directors meeting on immediately after they cut the trees, like that night, knew nothing of the cutting of the trees. That's one. Two, there was no complaint from my house, which is where the tree was cut, regarding droppings or anything about cutting trees, or any request did not come from my house, which the tree is immediately behind my house.
Okay, I know that you got into a lengthy discussion with the Parks Department, and at this point, all I can tell you is they are able to provide to you the written documentation that they received, complaints from residents in that area. About those
Okay,
tree
that's
cuttings.
fine, yeah, I would like to see the written documentation, because, like I said, it's a concept that said she knew nothing about it. The second question I have, and I don't know if this is really your area, but, this is on new business. The trees that are up on the road going towards, on Fort Weaver Road, on the easement, they have marks on them. Do you know is that city property or is that state property? On the easement on Fort Weaver Road. Do you know? The state. Never mind.
All right.
Any other comments, questions, board members? From the audience? Audience member O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me remind the city that the Ever Development Plan is a public document. It should have been reviewed. It's going to be past due for 5, going on 6 years now. And within that 6 years, development has been rapid. Development. And let me remind the city again, and you're the representative, to go back to them and say all these developments are subject to public review. And they're not. So by the time 2010, when the thing is 7, 8 years old and haven't been reviewed, and they're going to come to us, to the public, and say, accept these developments now that it's on board. But let me remind you again that every planned development is subject to public review.
As I mentioned, when the revised plan is completed, there will be a public review period, a chance for
Yeah, after how many years of development has been placed into the development plan without public review? That's what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying, and what I'm saying as well is that the public will have an opportunity to review and comment on that plan. The existing development.
It's too late.
So you're saying you don't want to see the plan?
We do.
That's
We
what
want
I'm
to see
saying.
it now. We wanted to see it the last 5 years.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your comments, audience members. Any other questions or comments from the audience at this time? If I may, if you entertain a comment that I have personally, it was discussed the North-South Road Farrington Highway intersection of being a flyover, Farrington Highway flyover. The Farrington Highway flyover is not on anyone's books at this time. We got news of this when the UH West Oahu made a presentation to this community and board. And what we found out was that currently in the configuration, the North-South Road at the Farrington Highway intersection will be a traffic signal. And knowing that the intersection is going to be very, very congested, the opportunity is to be initiated by the City and County of Honolulu. It's in their jurisdiction, this Farrington Highway flyover. It's a grade separated whereby there would not be a traffic signal. You could keep going on Farrington and bypass the north-south road. That would help alleviate some of the backup of traffic. So the question is, rather comment, would you be so kind to take back to the mayor's administration that because it's in the city and county's jurisdiction, our AMPO policy committee has not put such on the STIP or any TIP or in the ORTP 2030. This thing's out there in Never Never Land, but it is needed. It's a cornfield. This is a cornfield today, and there's an opportunity to do this intersection right, not 20 years from now, but today. So if the city and county could initiate some discussions on this, whereby the mayor would entertain it at the board level, it would be greatly appreciated because we have Senator Sparrow, chair of the AMPO Policy Committee, we have member Councilman Apo on the AMPO Policy Committee. Having 2 members in your neck of the woods is a real treat. There's only 15 members statewide, and we got 2 of them right here in our room. And we have an opportunity to engage with them and instigate. And when it came up with UH West Oahu's comments, both of those AMPO representatives said, no one's instigated this. So if the mayor would like to take charge and take a leadership role on this, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you everyone for entertaining me on that. If you'd like to respond.
I have no response to that. I can take it back.
Comment?
Joyce, I just want to know if you could do, the public a favor. There's crosswalks and handicap slats, but during the rainy time, those paints get very, very slippery. I mean, there was a lady that fell right in front of the Blaisdell in the crosswalk because the paint was pretty slippery. She was running across because it was raining. And we have to help her pick her up from there. And then I noticed that a lot of places, the paint, whenever it rains, is slippery. So is there any way that you could go ahead and have someone check in on that? I'm not sure if she just made a complaint to the city or the state, but I'm pretty sure it's the state, right? I think it's a state road, but the city also has the same thing. And I was wondering if somebody could look into it.
You're saying just the paint that's causing
The
that
paint
damage
is
to the
slippery,
asphalt.
right, the paint is slippery.
Thank you for those comments. Board Member Favela.
Yeah, that's.
Whoever painted the lines, the city or state, they're supposed to put some anti-skid for the community to walk over when it's raining. For whatever reason, they didn't do that in the area that she's talking about. I know what area she's talking about. Even the cars, when you go for stop on that line and rainy, it will skid on that line, what she's talking about. But they need to put the anti-skid on. I don't know why they didn't do that when they painted it. It's just sand into the paint. I don't know why they didn't do that.
Thank you. Will you please be able to provide some guidance at next month's meeting on those subject matters? We do have one more comment from Board Member Alexander.
Well, with regard to your overpass, our Citizen Advisory Committee member, Scott, should be putting that request in on our side of AMPO. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you. Next up on the agenda, under reports by elected officials, under 10B, we have Councilmember Todd Apo. Thank you, Councilmember.
Good evening. Happy Valentine's Day to you all. I'll start with the smiling announcement. Just to announce that on February 1, we, along with the Dental Samaritans, provided another year of the Give Kids a Smile program, in which volunteer dentists came out to Eva Elementary and Pauquet Elementary
as well as Dani Capono, and gave free screenings for about 200 kids in each school. I think it was about kindergarten through 2nd or 3rd grade. So a great program. The kids got their inspection. If they needed dental work, they were sent home with a note to their parents. And the Dental Samaritans also provided free toothpaste and toothbrushes and dental floss to the kids. So just to pass that along, I want to thank the Dental Samaritans for doing that for us. At the council, a couple of things to note. There is a charter amendment proposal in regards to providing for term limits for neighborhood board members. Hopefully you guys have heard about that. Provides for 4 two-year terms maximum.
Allow the State Department of Transportation to engage in reconfiguring the intersections. If you notice, they did it with the yellow delineator sticks. They did it with the white delineator sticks on Renton Road already. That was done by the state. So the state has the capacity and capabilities, rather, to, I don't know if it's 50 feet, 100 feet, but the state, when they first heard of this, Director Baraka at the time entertained it as such under state's jurisdiction. The only interplay then would be, council member, if beyond that so-called footage, if it were 700 feet, whatever it is, then the ball would be in your court. So please just be cognizant of it. We'd appreciate that.
Obviously, we know the issue. Okay.
Any other comments from the board members? Board member Atkinson.
Just a quick question. The GET tax, can it be used for extra buses?
No, it cannot be used for any existing mass transit zone. Give you the language so that you have it. It cannot be used to support public transportation systems already in existence. Prior to the effective half.
If I can, board member Atkinson, may I make a comment on your question?
Yes.
And that is House Bill 2783 would amend such. That's Act 247, House Bill 1309 from 2005, that provided that half-a-cent GET increase for mass transit. That bill, House Bill 2783, would amend Act 247, Hawaii Session Laws 2005, and give you, as a council member, more latitude and leeway in having a much broader scope. Now, if we look back at January 10th, board members, this board took a position unanimously to support what was called then the Phileas rubber tire multimodal system. And this neighborhood board on January 10th, from my understanding, passed such motion of unanimously, was because that this rubber tire technology could come off of the fixed guideway and be utilized on surface streets for emergency purposes, evacuation, or just daily use. And so it was looked upon with that decision by the board, but we found engaging with the Department of Transportation, it was the Transportation Committees in the House and Senate. The city and county came and provided at an informational briefing stating that I believe it's an $89 million EIS for that fixed guideway, give or take, okay? That the elevated, separated, fixed guideway will not have in its configurations on and off ramps onto that guideway, whereby when this community took a position January 10th to say we like this rubber tire technology because it can serve us, is that the answer provided by the mayor's administration at this informational briefing before the Senate and House Transportation Committees was that there will be no in the EIS any on or off ramps. Can you clarify that as being accurate and come back next month? Because that's a very frightening perspective. We'll have Dr. Panos Papaderos most likely here at this meeting next month to give a presentation, and he's on that expert panel. And being on the expert panel, we know that having managed lane concept, concrete, highway technology, buses, hot lanes, high occupancy toll lanes, is that entire configuration could be amended by House Bill 2783. Any other comments? Board Member Alexander.
If our representatives and senatorial people are here, we should not support that bill. This is how transit got defeated 15 years ago. That 0.5% should be used for nothing but the rail. I don't really like the rail, but get it built, I'm for it, get it done, waste the money on that, nothing else.
Thank you. Any comments from the audience? We have a comment from, please come forward, sir, and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Daniel DeGrancia, and I just wanted to clarify that information briefing that you discussed, it was revealed by a question that Representative Pine had asked, that the alternatives analysis had already in advance excluded entrance and exit ramps from the assessment. I wonder if maybe we could get some clarification on that.
And I don't have it off the top of my head. I know that the hot mains issue was dealt with when we were debating in council the alternative analysis and ultimately selected the locally preferred alternative. But I'll add that to the list with the RAPS question and come back with that next one.
For $89 million for EIS, one would think you would be able to throw in a ramp or two on either end.
Well, I guess I'm sorry. Part of the real question that I'm asking is why is it that from the beginning it had already been excluded? In other words, why was it already ruled out from the beginning that it would not be included, effectively cementing rail as the sole solution?
And again, I'm not going to affirm that it was in fact excluded, but generally speaking, things that were included and not included, the question of how did they select what was going to be put into alternative analysis, what wasn't. If you recall, through 2005, the end of 2005, they had scoping meetings which asked the community for their ideas as to what they wanted studied in the alternative analysis, and that's how the decisions were made as to what was included and excluded in the alternative analysis. Again, I'll go back and see exactly what was there in regards to hot main type ideas and on and off ramps and be able to report back on that.
Thank you, Council Member. We have more comments. Please come forward.
My name is Suzanne Alava, with General Manager of Ever by Gentry Community Association. Councilmember Ho, I was one of the invitees to the North-South Road and D.R. Horton Development Tour, and it was very informative. My first comment is that the D.R. Horton development is massive. What it potentially is going to do to the Eva Beach traffic is just hideous, and that it's a real major concern. Has that development been approved?
No, that development is nowhere near approval. They still need to go to the Land Use Commission to urbanize a portion of their property. Then so they need to go through that whole process before they can even come to the city and put in an application for rezoning, because basically all that land is agriculture right now. So that is still a very long-term plan, and I know D.R. Horton is making efforts to work through those issues with the community and have those discussions. I know that I have not been involved with them, but know that they have been having a number of community group type meetings, and my understanding to them is they'll continue that. I think everyone recognizes the potential impacts of that, and it will be dealt with as we go through that process.
They've never made a presentation to the residents of Eva Beach, have they?
No.
I don't know for sure.
If I could, go ahead, please, continue. Please.
My second question is, the completion of Copper Lake Parkway, I understand, and this could be hearsay, I don't know, that's why I'm asking you, that it is delayed to deter the in and outbound traffic from Ever Beach until the north-south road is built or completed. Can you speak to that?
I think delayed is the wrong word. The construction is likely to end up being timed so that the opening of that last portion will be completed at the same time the north-south road construction was done. Again, the city was working first on the section from Renton Road down to basically Copipi Road through Ocean Point. And this is the next section. They're planning on that last section right now. And it's estimated that those two will likely coincide given the new dates that are being provided by the DOT in regards to the north-south road. Now, I know before I was on the council, there were concerns discussed with, I guess, by the Copper Lake Villages Association about concerns that if that Copper Lake Parkway was completed prior to north-south road development, because of the likelihood that the traffic would then flow through Copper Lake Villages as opposed to going along Roosevelt Road for those in Everett and getting up to H1 through Copper Lake. But like I said, I don't know, it's not being delayed, but that's just the timing of the likely process.
If Copper Lake Parkway was completed before the north-south road was completed, it would certainly help to alleviate some of the weight of the traffic to and from the freeway, to and from town.
True.
I'd like to see if we can't get that, get the dates pushed up so that it is completed soon.
The city's working both on that one as well as the other one that I think is going to be a major help is the Comstock Boulevard extension that's also being worked on by Capital.
What is the completion estimate?
I believe beginning of 09, first quarter of 09 for the completion of Comstock extension. I believe second quarter of 09, if I'm remembering right, for
the Copley Parkway completion. But I can get both of those confirmed for you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to comment really quickly on your comment, Ms. Alava, and that is, you brought up the D.R. Horton. They did come to this community in February of '07. They made a presentation. Then they came back and provided an update. And this board in December of '07 had taken a position where I believe it was 7 in favor, one abstention. The board took a position that the east-west connector road through D.R. Horton development be a priority prior to any further development. And so to address the concern with D.R. Horton and transportation and the horrendous conditions with 12,000 more homes on the landscape, is that I'd like to now interject that in the meeting minutes of this board meeting, regular meeting of February 14th, that the direction by this board to D.R. Horton to construct and complete its section of the east-west connector road that connects north-south road to the Fort Weaver Road. And if it can be then, I'd like to make that announcement that that letter from this board to D.R. Horton be placed in this month's meeting minutes. That way the community will be apprised that this board has taken action and does find that D.R. Horton development to be of concern. Audience member, please come forward.
Hi, Todd. Todd, I do have 2 questions for you. Now, the G tax that you guys are taking out from the people, they can't be used for any type of transportation, roads or whatever. If the road does not pass, what happened to the funds?
There is no specific provision within the legislation that I recall as to what happens with it. I think a lot of you know, the state legislature has put out some proposed bills that say if we don't do certain things by deadlines, the money has to be paid back to the state. I don't believe those bills provide for what the state would do, and I know some ideas that have been thrown around is for the state to use them for their highway needs. But that's as far as I answer you.
Okay, another thing. Schruller Homes, I guess it's called Coopv. I wasn't here at that night at the neighborhood board, but I understand there will be a road going out towards Fort Weaver Road. Could you tell me where the exit will be on Fort Weaver Road by the freeway? Because my gripe is, and I guess it was about 3-4 years ago, by Honaway, there is a traffic light box there. And I sure hope that that is not where that subdivision will come up from, because we're going to be tangled with 2 traffic lights going onto the freeway, and that's not what we need.
I don't believe it will be that high, that far Mauka up. And the main connector to Fort Weaver Road for that development is the the east-west connector that the chair was just speaking of. And I'm sure you may have a better idea of exactly where that's planning on coming out. I don't have it.
It's going to come out on Ahava Drive, or with the old Fort Weaver and Ahava intersection by the slaughterhouse.
Okay. Okay, so they're not going to use that Honaway box there.
No, and that, again, I think we've had that discussion here as well, as that was put there by the state DOT with all those discussions that were not about potentially putting a light there. D.R. Horton development would not be that far Mauka, so there's no way they would make that intersection.
Councilman Paul, thank you so much for your time. We have next on the agenda from reports by elected officials, governor's representative under item 10C. Is there a Tommy Johnson in the room? Not seeing governor's representative. Moving on to 10D. We have a representative from Senator Espero's office. Please come forward and identify yourself.
Aloha, members of the board. My name is Venus De Los Santos. Senator Espero, he apologizes he can't be here tonight. He's got a legislative deadline he has to meet, and so he's asked me to fill in. I passed out his legislative report to the members of the board. It's also on the table. I think some of you also have it in possession. If you have any other questions, for me, let me know. His contact information is on there. There's a few things that he wanted me to highlight. The big news is for the Eva Mackay Middle School, the $66 million appropriated by the legislature and released by the governor. Some of you might know this already. Construction is scheduled to begin this summer and be completed by July of 2010. The DOE is proposing to open the school during the 2010-2011 school year. And so I know some of you are excited about that, but the senator wanted me to let you know that it hasn't been determined which elementary schools will go. So he'll let you know when he finds out. So he spoke to someone at the DOE, and he will apprise everybody of that when that comes to fruition. Regarding the legislature, many good bills are still alive. So he encourages everybody to go to online to capital.hawaii.gov to review all of those bills and their statuses. Furthermore, the senator is working with James Campbell State High School for a visit to the Capitol on March 11. About 600 students from James Campbell High School will be attending, will be in the Rotunda area, and they're going to be at the Rotunda area at the Capitol to, of course, lobby for their air conditioning for their school. So we welcome all of those students, and we're actually looking forward to meeting them. My final announcement, this Saturday, February 16th, there's a rummage sale and fundraiser at Lima Intermediate School for students who are raising money for a trip to Washington, D.C. So we urge people to come support these students. The sale is from 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. So go on ahead and buy stuff. Anyway, that concludes my report. If anybody has any questions for me to take that to the senator, please let me know.
Board members, any comments? Board Member Bautista.
I'm trying to relate where this location for the 352 square feet classroom. I'm not sure where it is. It seems like it's the right next to the empty lot where the green wall is.
May I clarify?
Sure.
You can answer.
Oh,
You want me to go?
yes, please.
Okay, that, Friendship Bible, Lanakila, Emma Manager's Mansion. It's in that quadrant. That's the quadrant. Friendship Bible Bike Shop. Remember the bike shop? That's the quadrant.
Oh, it's in the back? Oh.
Yeah, in the back. Everything within their jurisdiction of their boundaries. They're not asking for any kind of interaction. They're just adding some parking stalls and just making some general improvements. Okay, we're going to take a minute recess, change the tape. You're not done.
Just come hang out with us.
Oh, so when is it? Good work. Well, I'm not very, I discovered this very much. Gary.
Hey, Gary.
Good
to see you, buddy.
Back in business. We took a break for the tape. We have Venus with representing Senator Sparrow's office, and do we have any other comments from board members? If I could bring to your attention, then I do have one, and that is in Representative Rita Cavanillia's report. There is a page here that is a copy of a letter. The letter went to Chair of the Economic Development and Taxation Committee, Chair Senator Carol Fukunaga. Vice Chair of that committee is our state senator, Senator Will Sparrow. In the letter dated February 1st, it brings reference to House Bill 724. House Bill 724 is the GET tax for mass transit. House Bill 724 passed the House unanimously, so it's still alive. The question is in the letter to Senator Fukunaga is, what's your justification to not schedule a bill for a hearing that passed the House unanimously? And I can say this within 15 seconds what this bill does. The state is withholding 10% off the top on the GET mass transit tax, whereby monies are not going to mass transit, but also in the general fund. Act 247, House Bill 1309, was never contrived, conceived to do that. After that became an act, the legislature got together and said, who's going to collect the tax, city or the state? This bill, House Bill 724, says, you know what, state? To process this tax and put it in the city and county's coffers, you should only retain that of which you need to process the tax. The city and county collects the impact fees on every unit sold in the other plane for 6 city and county state road projects, the impact fee. The city only retains 2% to process that tax and put it in the state's coffers. So for the state to have a cut, its take at 10%, is not warranted, not justified, and over the life of the tax can be an accumulation of a sum of $300 million going in the general fund, because those monies can be used, as others know here, with the special highway fund to garner federal dollars. Every penny that goes into that mass transit account is going to garner federal dollars. So when we divert those monies, that's what this letter is all about. This is a very serious issue, because we're not getting a response.
Actually, Senator Sparrow had addressed that, and he actually anticipated your concern. We spoke with the staff at Fukunaga's office. Senator Sparrow did speak with Fukunaga and Senator Fukunaga about it, and ultimately it's her call. And other than that, I don't think there's anything else we can do. You know, it's ultimately Senator Fukunaga's call. And
well, thank you that the senator did initiate contact, responded to the letter from Rep. Capamillia. I appreciate that. So the answer is, we don't have an answer. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Audience members, please step forward.
I just wanted to mention that Senator Sparrow co-sponsors this year 2 really great resolutions, Senate Resolution 22 and Senate Concurrent Resolution 47. If you could just thank the senator for introducing those, and when the resolution hearing time comes along, if you could just ask him to make sure that those get a hearing with IGM committee, that would be great. But pass along our mahalo for him co-sponsoring those great resolutions.
I definitely will do that. Thank you.
Comment, audience?
Hi, Venus.
Oh, hi, Celeste.
Anyway, just for the people who watch this neighborhood board, I understand you guys are saying bills, so-and-so numbers, or whatever. I mean, the people out there don't even know what we're talking about. I mean, maybe if you said bill so-and-so related to, you know, then the people could relate to what we're all talking about. But anyway, my question is, I understand that there's going to be another intermediate school being built, right?
Yes.
Middle schools.
Yes.
Now, James Campbell High School, they're overcrowded. Now, what does the senator have for James Campbell High School to service more students there? Because where are the students going to go from two different intermediate schools? Where are the rest of the students going to go? To that school? I mean, the electric is not good. Everything else is just breaking down. I mean, you're going to put more students in that school. So do you know if the senator has anything up his, sleeve for that?
I don't know if he has anything at this time, but I can certainly bring your issue up to him and let him know.
Okay, well, if we can have another high school, it would be really good.
Thank you for your comments. We'll go back to the board. Board Favela.
This is a middle school, right?
Yes.
So we're gonna have 9th grade. 9th grade, right? 7.
Includes 6.
6 to what, 9?
6 to 8.
6 to 8. So why didn't they suggest it like what other middle schools when they had 7, 8, and 9th grade, like Washington Intermediate? Why didn't they do that to what Celeste is saying now, to alleviate the overcrowding of the freshman class coming in from the adjacent schools? Because you're talking about 6, 7, and 8, and Ilima has 8th grade. Both of them is going to go freshman class at Campbell High School, which, you know, there's no, I mean, look at the portables. They have portables all over the place. In 84, they took out the portables because they said there wasn't adequate classes for the students. And they put it into the multitudes back in our schools in Ever Beach. Not one building was built, nothing else was changed. They were supposed to put in brand new buildings, they put in portables. And they continue to put in portables. So can you let them know, the senator and all the rest of the people in lawmaking or whatever, let them know that we need relief at Campbell High School.
Thank you. Take that back to the senator. Well done.
Thank
you for your time and report. Moving on, we'll have a representative from Representative Rita Cabanilla Arakawa's office. Please come forward to the microphone and state your name.
I'm Ilalo Pereno. I am reporting for Representative Cabanilla Arakawa. The report's been passed around, and if you didn't get any copy, just raise your hand, we'll give you a copy. The Office of Representative Cabanilla have been including a survey in mail-outs to the constituents, and the results are we have 75% are in favor of constructing new roads using the tolling concept, while 10% regarding raised taxes, and 5% took the position no more roads are not needed. I'd like to report that on the Capital Improvement Plan, number one for the representative is the funding for air conditioning for James Campbell High School and for a new classroom building at Eva Elementary School. That's going to the House Finance Committee. And as already been mentioned, the Eva Mackay Middle School is being funded. Construction is scheduled to begin this summer. And very quickly, my knowledge, I've worked in this area for about 41 years. And in the discussion with some officials of the Department of Education, that there are considerations for a high school. It's down the line. I don't know how far down the line. And as we hear more information about that, we'll inform the board. The rest are in the packet, and if you in the report, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Board Member Atkinson.
Actually, this is a question not necessarily for the representative, but actually for you. And it goes back to Kurt's question about the portables and the classrooms. Isn't that a DOE function to determine how the money is spent, rather than a senator function? Or
Yes, it's not a legislative function as it is. My understanding that the Department of Education per se has in their plans that when they put out a campus, 80% are fixed buildings, 20% with portables, roughly speaking. I don't know what's the current ratio right now. So if you look at any new campus, there will be portable buildings. And as we joke around, portables are no longer portables. They stay fixed.
Any other comments? Board members? Board Member Favela?
Yeah, that's the reason why we should abolish the DOE or the Board of Education or whatever the situation is and give that back to the principal so that they can do what they need with the money for the schools. Campbell High School's football field, is the electricity all fixed and taken care of? Do you know about that?
I'm not current with the school. You already know that I'm not connected with James Campbell High School.
Yeah, okay. When you was there when they took the portables out from over here from the library, when I was in school, I was also there. That was what was told to us because we was in the classroom. That the state decided, wasn't legislation or whatever, but the state decided, DOE or Board of Education decided that portable classrooms wasn't adequate teaching facilities for the students, but maybe change over 20 years or whatever the ratio is. And also, like I said, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade should be the middle school and not 6th grade. Because you're gonna have 6th graders with 7th and 8th graders that already, is already thinking about high school, interacting with elementary mindset kids They should change that. I know you cannot do that, but like I said, take the hands out from the DOE and put it into the principal, then we can get things done around here.
Thank you for your comments. I believe we usually have a Board of Education member attending this neighborhood board.
He left. He had Valentine's.
Elalo, I have a comment. Could you please mention the bill number as a vehicle for air conditioning, James Campbell High School? When the students are going to convene at the Capitol, some 600 strong on the rotunda, they're going to be pretty loud, and they're going to be chanting for this air conditioning to the entire building at the stake. And it's going to be very impressive. And that bill number is?
The number is HB 2851.
Thank you. Any other comments? Please come forward.
Okay, James Campbell High School has multiple problems. Okay, now before you even do the air conditioner, are you guys gonna do the electrical work? And I know it's something to do with two different schools. I guess it's an intermediate elementary school. But are the electrical work going to be done? When is the electrical work going to be done? I know this is up for election for the representatives, but when they ran election the last time, they promised. They put Campbell High School number 3. Now they put, after the election, Campbell High School went back to number 7. Where Campbell High School stands right now as far as priority. I mean, I'm tired already. I'm tired Campbell High School go up, they go down.
I understand. We've talked through the years.
Yeah. Can you also, can you let her know, I mean, that she shouldn't waste her time about the shopping carts? I mean, waste her time with something that is people's issue, because shopping carts at one time back in the 70s, or was it the 80s, they were going to pass it where you remove the shopping cart from the parking lot, that's theft. Now, if people remove it, they should take it back, as easy as that. So she shouldn't waste her time on shopping carts.
I'll take it back as your feedback.
Thank you.
If I could comment on the $12 million in the bill, House Bill 2851 will be inclusive of the electrical to facilitate the air conditioning. So the $12 million is a lump sum to get the job done. But however, the Department of Education had a heat abatement list, of which you're correct. The James Campbell High School and 3 other schools were on that heat abatement list. And just recently, you recall in the news, they've changed the process from, instead of being by school, it's by an index of the heat of the classroom. And by heat of the classroom, they plan on going classroom by classroom instead of school by school. So they have reconfigured the whole process. And I think we got the losing end on that stick.
No.
And I just want to tell you is that when they go classroom to classroom, correct me if I'm wrong, the index is for temperature. And the problem at James Campbell High School is also the dust and the noise. And that, my understanding, is not part of that index, is it?
You are correct that the implication or the impact of what happens around classrooms or the campus affecting the learning of the students is not just the temperature. It is also the noise that's coming through the airplanes. We are on the landing pattern of airplanes, both commercial as well as military. And so that has a high impact on the learning process. So we need to add that into the index.
Go ahead, please, audience member.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to comment one more thing on your comment. The shopping cart bill was generated through the constituency of Waipahu, whereby shopping carts fully identified with the merchant's name on them were not being removed. They were on the street, and they've been occupying 2 parking spaces for over 4 months. The HPD came by and said, this is not a moving vehicle. I'm not going to remove someone's property. Bulky Item Refuse Division says, we don't collect shopping carts because the recycling of them we don't do. We throw them in the landfill. We don't want to put them in the landfill. Also, if the shopping cart has someone's personal property in it, something, let's assume that the person is indigent or homeless and uses the shopping cart. They still have personal property and due process under the Constitution. What the bill did was identify the city and county refuse department so that they could actually remove the shopping cart, because they're going to stay there until it's done. What the bill did was answer to the constituency. It did not give a study. The City and County of Honolulu council members are going to study the cart situation. What Rep. Cabanilla got from her constituency was, we don't want to wait for a study, we want action. And so besides identification of the refuse division of bulky item pickup, it also provided for the storage of such property for 45 days so that if any property were confiscated, it could be retrieved. And that is a right and privilege that every American has. So the identification of shopping carts not being a focus was number one of the Waipahu constituency, of which she has in her district all the way to Waipahu High School. Lower Waipahu is laden with shopping carts that are wayward and abandoned, and the response by Representative Cabanilla to take this by the horn, I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other comments? We have another one from the audience, please.
Mr. Perino, now regarding the shopping cart issue, quick question. Okay. The representative presently lives in Lower Waipahu, is that not correct?
Correct.
Okay, and is it also not correct that in the representative's front yard, at one point in time, there were not less than 6 or 7 shopping carts which were parked in a straight line in front of her yard? Was that not in one of her mailouts?
Indeed, there's a picture that shows proof of that.
My question for you, okay, is hypothetically speaking, okay, if you were in a position of authority, if you were a state representative, and every morning that you came out of your house in front of your front yard, you saw 6 or 7 shopping carts that were loaded with rotting material from internally displaced persons, would you not use your authority, to the best of your power, to get that cleared and to get that situation resolved? Yes or no?
Yes, it stands to reason that the shopping carts are in the wrong place. They're not in the proper place. And so they should be placed back where they belong.
Board Member Fellow.
Okay, one, so somebody took these shopping carts from the store. That's what you guys say. So they have it. Well, like what I did, when I had a Star Market shopping cart in front of my house, I called Star Market because it had the name on it. It said, Star Market, equal on the street, we have a cart, come get it. Regardless if the person's property or rotted, whatever the stuff you guys talking about. If it gets 6 carts in front of my house, I want to go out there and remove them myself because it's blocking my area. Plus, if it's blocking the sidewalk, the police can do something in obstructing sidewalk. So there is things to do. They just got to keep following up with them. They could have removed them, but they chose not to because it's the leeway of the police if they want to enforce or not to enforce. That's the problem right there.
Thank you for the
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, on the agenda, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Kim Pine's office, please state your name.
Hello, I'm John Bollner, and I'm sorry I wasn't here last month, but I was in the hospital. I'm not sure if they relayed that. So they let me out. I'm doing better. Can't say I made a full recovery yet, but getting there. All right, so here's our written report, and let me just hit a couple things very quickly that we were just talking about. The James Campbell High School with the air conditioning, as we mentioned, March 11th, we do hope to see all the kids come down, and they will be lobbying for House Bill 2851 and also House Bill 1960. Both of those bills are the community or capital improvement project bills for our 42nd and 43rd districts. Bottom line, the $12 million that's in the bill, as Vice Chair Berg said, will cover all the electrical upgrades and the air conditioning. And also, finally, the electrical upgrades. Dr. Awakuni assigned one of the teachers at James Campbell to lead this issue. I spoke with him the day before yesterday, and he told me that the electrical upgrades are on campus. So that the electrical upgrades will be in, and that the last thing we have to lobby for is for that $12 million contained in HB 1960 and 2851 to get released. So March 11th at the state capitol. We want to see as much participation as we can. Also in our written report, We talked about the House bills that, also we have a couple of House bills still alive. Went down a list of the House bills introduced. Just to let you know, in our report, the list of House bills introduced is not complete. I'll have to come back with a complete list next month because I noticed that it stopped short of HB 2782, 2783, and 3004 that we were talking about earlier with transportation issues in that beach. I know that Representative Pine is the primary introducer on 3004. So once again, I'll bring back the rest of the bills that we introduced next month. Going on, Iroquois Point, the access to the beaches on Iroquois Point, the meeting to finalize the plans and propose the plan has not happened yet, but once again, Representative Pine is going to make sure that the chair of the neighborhood board or his representative will attend that meeting, and that invitation has been extended and accepted by the planners so that the neighborhood board will be represented at that meeting. And going back again to James Campbell High School, we've had aircraft flying over Eva Beach for years because we are in the flight pattern. The one thing that we're trying to do in our office to begin to really get at the problem is to define specifically that we are above federal limits for noise, and that will give us, you know, the means and the due process to go through. And so James Campbell High School is the location of one of the two monitors, and we just got the final plans drawn up for that, and it's going to be on top of the building in James Campbell High School, closest to the flight path, so it'll help us to get noise abatement for the school. The other noise monitor is about to go in and be installed, and that's over at Iroquois Point, which is very close to the edge of the runway. So these are two monitors. They're both closer than any other noise monitors have been in the noise contour mapping study and the overall diagram of Honolulu International Airport. So we really look forward to seeing what kind of results we get from these and how we can better define the problem, and then we can get some more specific results, you know, to get the problem resolved. So we've already talked about Evan Mackay Middle School opening. And on page 3 of our written report, we're just going to want to keep updating you on Fort Weaver Road, the widening project that's going on. And so there's an update there. As always, I'll give you the website and the contact number to determine when there's going to be lane closures and no lane closures on the last report. And you can always contact our office anytime with any questions on that. Of course, the North-South Road is still moving along. And so for the, as Mr. Crayon indicated, there has been plans for another high school. I've also heard that, so what I'll do is we'll go to our contact in the DOE and come back with specific information on that and where they expect the high school might go and who it might serve. And also the lights on the football field for James Campbell High School. We've got some correspondence between the representative and the principal, and I can come back to you with that information and how that's moving along and what's holding up the contractor from installing the wiring and getting the lights working again over at James Campbell. So I'll take any questions.
Thank you for concluding your report. At this time, we're going to entertain the board. Any comments, questions from board members? Board member Favela.
You guys noise monitors, where you guys putting them in Campbell?
Again, the building, I think it might be O building, but that might have been the first building we went to. It's the one that's the most, it's the closest to the neighborhood on, like, over on the Malca side.
That's D building. If you can put them in D building, that's the one I told you about. That's where you should put them. In D building, third floor, facing the church, Our Lady of Perpetual Love Church.
Yes.
That's the area where it goes. Another area that you didn't talk about, and it's right in the flight pattern, is on Ahona Street. That's a park, Polo Park. The community calls it Leeward Park. But on Ahona Street, if you go over there to the park, and you stand right there in the park, you can pretty much see the numbers on the plane.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's just as low in that area and as Iroquois and of course the noise in Campbell. So I think you guys should check it out. Not gonna take that long. Just go over there, wait 5-10 minutes, you can see them flying over. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And actually, and in fact, when you first talked to me about this, and you also mentioned that there was some residue showing up on those cars over there. So that's exactly what I did. I drove all around Eva Beach and I set up in different places. And you're exactly right. It happens exactly that way. So the reason why we're starting with Iroquois Point is because it's closest to the runway. But what's going to happen is, and I believe what's going to happen is, the noise level is going to be significantly higher than what they tell us it is. So then we go and we back up from there, and that is the exact next location where the noise monitor is going to go, because it backs directly up from that location along the flight path.
Thank you. Any Board Member Atkinson?
The noise monitors, who's in charge of those? Are you in charge of that with the office, or is
Oh,
there
no.
an independent contractor? Is it, who's in charge of
It is the independent contractor, and his name is Charles Schuster. I don't remember the company name, but he is in fact a private contractor that is contracted by the state. And one of the things we looked into regarding that is the reliability of the information, but we're very confident in the process. They have given accurate readings that have resulted in them having to spend money and having to adjust their maps before. So we're pretty confident.
Any other comments? Audience, please. Come forward.
Okay, I know our focus is always on James Campbell High School, but can I also bring a focus to Elima Intermediate School in needs of air conditioning as well? Okay, and I understand that you're saying that the schools will get the air conditioning depending how hot the school is.
By classroom.
By classrooms, okay. Now, how would you determine that? Unless you put a meter or some kind of reading thing for someone to read it during the summer times and, you know, from September. Are you guys gonna do that?
The legislature is not engaged in that prioritization process. But if I can comment, it is it's of a technicality whereby they do have a monitoring process where they can record data from it. But you know what, Celeste, is that by 1/10 of a degree can make a difference between your classroom getting air conditioned. There's 235 schools on the heat abatement list. So if we go by classroom, we're in the thousands, possibly. You follow me? So by degree, if your classroom is 88.3 and you're 88.1, it could be a long time before they get to us.
And Celeste, I can also tell you this, that Vice Chair Berg and I spoke about this, about the results and about the numbers when they came out, and I disagree with them. I think that Vice Chair Berg disagrees with them. They look pretty low for our community. But as far as James Campbell goes, we're pushing forward pretty quickly, so we can get what we need to get done. With the Lima Intermediate, just real quick, I'll get back in touch with you because HB 1960 or 2851 might already have provisions for the air conditioning in Lima.
Okay, it depends on the time of day when they check that day.
That's an excellent point. You're absolutely right.
You know,
Statistics can be manipulated.
I mean, check it for magnetic fields. It depends on the time and day.
That's right.
So how did Wyandotte get the AC before we did?
Reconfiguration of the process. You're absolutely right. Any other comments? Please come forward.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question. I'm getting the impression here that the issue of air conditioning has come up quite a bit for the high schools here. Has the board put in a resolution or passed a resolution asking the legislature to prioritize air conditioning at its high school?
Absolutely. The response to that is Senator Sparrow had a standalone bill last session. That was to do just that. And there was a resolution, and there was very good rapport with the James Campbell students and faculty in that movement. Any other comments, questions for Representative Pine's office? I do. My turn. Ready? I think it was 3 months ago. Question. Representative Pine, would you please contact Senator English on the tolling concept bill, House Bill 70? Do you have a status?
Yes, they met. She met with him, and what I will do is have her contact you directly and relate to you the results, because what we're running into is a bit of the same thing that Senator Sparrow's office reported back, that a lot of these chairs are, telling us that it's their prerogative, but I think we have some more information on other approaches that we might try, because we don't like to take no for an answer. Kim's not used to taking no for an answer. So what I will do is have her contact you directly, and then we can present a report to the board afterwards. But to let you know that the meeting did take place, it took place just last month when Senator English returned from his trip.
Thank you for that update. At this time, we still have time. And that is, we're on the agenda, item number 11, committee reports. Executive Hargrave, absent. Parks Recreation Committee Affairs, absent. Planning, Permitting and Zoning. Excuse me? Yeah, absent. Legislative and Capital Improvements Program, Vice Chair Berg. I'm going to defer at this time, and we're going to move on to item 11E, Traffic and Transportation. Board Member Belford, do you have a report?
I do. Should we consolidate, Mr. Chair, the traffic and transportation with OMCO?
Your prerogative, please do so.
Let me do that since they're uniquely intertwined. I think this evening we've discussed some traffic issues and decided to take action on them. The traffic issue that Board Member Alexander suggested, I addressed through OMCO would be the availability or the planning of more lane capacity, and that was deferred by planning for that was deferred to OMCO and the policy committee, and so that's something to look into with respect to the question you had earlier. And the other big news with OMCO, and a quick reminder to those of you in the television audience, I think most of in this room know, is the Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization. We have a opportunity for citizens to participate through the Citizens Advisory Committee, and we essentially try to take a look at transit issues and provide objective information. I think what's been most recent focus has been a subcommittee on public-private partnerships. I've had the opportunity to be the chair, and I've made it a point to dispel or expel the political advocacy from our subcommittee. And so whereas certain public-private partnership issues have become contested, at least in the capacity of OMCO, we politically diffuse this. We're not using OMCO as a platform to advocate free legislation. We're doing a nice pro and con report on public-private partnerships. So should anyone ever have any feedback, it's a good opportunity to let me know. For the most part, we're trying to keep it pretty objective. Otherwise, with respect to OMCO, we continue to get good reports on transit technologies. And the big thrust for several months has been legitimacy of public-private partnerships. Those of you in the audience should definitely make sure that you're paying attention to the city's transit technology committee and be aware of those outcomes. I think that would conclude my report and calls for action.
Comment, board members? At this time, I'm going to make a comment. I'm going to make a comment on his report. With OMCO and Traffic Committee, it's important that we send directives to the powers that be and initiate resolve where we instigate something to those powers that be. When we have these agenda items of committee reports at the end of the meetings and we lose quorum, we're shorthanded, we're unable to take action, and I want to thank those who are remaining here that are sticking it out. It'd be appreciated, for the record, that all board members continue to stay for the duration of the meeting so that we can engage in being proactive for the community, with the community. And with that, thank you. We have a comment from board member Atkinson, please.
Just on your comment, is there any way we could move committee reports up to board business?
I concur with you, and that will be under the prerogative of the Chair Hargrave to initiate, and we'll bring that, I will certainly bring that up as well with you.
Yeah, I would agree, and perhaps to illustrate with your comment, Chair Berg,